ma'am. Hello, classmates. So, I'm Joseph Eric Bocariza, and I'm going to report Chapter 5, IT Infrastructure and Emerging Technologies. So, learning objectives. Define IT infrastructure and describe its components. Identify and describe the stages and technology drivers of IT infrastructure evolution. Assess contemporary computer hardware platform trends. Assess contemporary software platform trends. And lastly is to evaluate the challenges of managing IT infrastructure and management solutions. So first, IT infrastructure. So, set of physical devices and softwares required to operate in the enterprises. So, the set of firm-wide services is including computing platforms providing computing services, telecommunication services, data management services, application software services, and IT management, education, and other services. So, the service platform perspective. So, more accurate view of value and investments. So, it refers to analyzing actual service and able to buy tech tool. So, example na ko ani is like for example, new PC. A new PC might save an employee's 1 hour per day in a waiting time for information would dramatically increase his or her value to the firm. So, IT infrastructure. So, in this illustration, as you notice, how the centrality of IT infrastructure and services to the achievement of the firm's success are also a coral are in indirect correlation, and to another is a quality is a direct function of the power of this infrastructure. So, ang kining business strategy, IT strategy, and information technology, guys, it goes up to it all it all goes down to the IT services and infrastructure, and dili mo so ang atong infrastructure, ang atong IT infrastructure nga services, which they mura magipahilon na ni ang sa customer services, si ang nagpa refine sa supplier services and the enterprise services. So next is the evolution of IT infrastructure. So the general purpose mainframe and mini computer era, it's from 1959 to the present. So in 1958, IBM's first mainframe introduced. So in 1965, the less expensive DEC mini computers were introduced. So the mini systems are used for small or mild level computations. So like low speed servers, scientific computing for mid-range, while mainframes cap computer are used for high critical applications where very high volume data is processing needed. While personal computer era is from 1981 up to present. So the first personal computer was made in the 1981 from the IBM PC, and proliferation in 1980s to 1990s and resulted in growth of personal software. So when we talk about personal computer, guys, like for example kining akong gibuhat karon, the thing that I'm using right now is a personal computer. Any device, a device that has a kanang hardware, computer hardware, na computer OS, na computer software nga akong ginagamit for my personal needs and for my personal services, mo ni siya ang personal computer. So next is the client server. So client server is a network is the medium through which clients access resources and services from a central computer via either a local area network, or what we call today as LAN, or a wide area network, or a WAN. So example lang ko aning client or server era is kaning client or server mo ni silang amo ni silang kadtong mo kuan gani kanang mga computer shops nga kanang different kinds of computer that is dependent dependent on a server or a main computer. Like for example, itay kaning sinam PC5 kuana kanang time na. So you don't need ang katong PC5 nga computer or katong computer nga naa sa PC5, di na to siya need nga mo off pa. Pwede ang kanto ng main server or the main computer will off or sidya na or in kanang sadyo na nga pagpasabot is like these are the kanang types of computers nga nagrely sa nga nagrelyan sa usa ka main nga computer or sa what we call a server nga si Jay pwede si mo off, si Jay pwede mo on, pwede ni Jay makontrol ang imong kung unsay imong gibuhat sa kana nga type sa computer. So it is very independent jud. It is very dependent what I mean ang kanang client o server era. So mo ni illustrated here are the typical computing configurations characterizing each of the five eras of IT infrastructure. So this is the mainframe, personal, and the client server. So ang mainframe ni computer, so mo ni sila ang type sa computers nga kanang mo lito katong gisulti pag kanang pagdiagi nga mini systems that are used for small or mild mid-level computations. So personal computer, so mo ni sila ang computer nga kanang imong ginagamit matag adlaw or kanang a device nga imong gigamit for your services, etc. and the client server. So IT infrastructure. So IT infrastructure is a vice versa type man sila nga kuan. Like for example, kung maguna ta diri sa client, so personal computer of the client goes to the internet, then goes to the web server, then goes to the application server, and goes to the sales, production, accounting, HR, and goes down to the data. So kung diri po ta sa kuan, moari na po sa magsugod po sa data, then goes to the sales, production manager, and so on and so forth na sila. So IT infrastructure. So evolution of IT infrastructure. So enterprise computing era from 1992 up to present. So move toward integrating and disparate networks applications using internet standards and enterprise applications. So it is the IT tools that businesses use for efficient production operations and back office support. These IT tools cover database management, so customer relationship management and supply chain or etc. So kining enterprise computing era from the word itself enterprise, so ginagamit morning up to the present naagya po ni siya nga type sa type of computing kay tungod most likely gigamit siya sa mga big organizations or big companies or like sa mga enterprises from the name itself na daan sa mga enterprises nga nagunit og dako or kanang large geographical nga gipanghandulan. So that's the hindrance between cloud and mobile computing. It may be the fastest growing form of computing, but it can't really kanang render its service like the enterprise computing, like for para sa mga kanang big companies or sa mga big organizations or big entities, whereas ang cloud and mobile computing is more of a client type of servicing needs naman ni sila, murag more of a kanang personal kung sa computer pa ni sila mo ni gitawag og personal computer type nga pagka-computing. It's because of the cloud computing, it is a software application that's supplied over the internet or the other network. While the advantages of cloud and mobile computing is that it is very kanang flexible lang. It's because of it can use any computers, any devices, any personal computers, any mobiles, even laptops or even mobiles can be used as long as you have the internet or the data. Mao na kinahanglan sa cloud and mobile computing just to avail its services. The only thing that you need or the only thing that kanang nag-separate between your device and the kanang cloud and mobile computing is the internet and the kuan lang and the data. Even if you have the internet, either you have the internet or either you have the data. So anywhere, anytime, any place pwede na nimo siya magamit, while enterprise computing era is kanang more of a kanang specific type of device that is connected to the specific type of enterprise server. Mao pa na nimo magamit ang enterprise computing bale. So next is mao ni sila ang IT infrastructure sa enterprise computing and cloud and mobile computing. So this is what I mean nga kanang mga kanang types of device that is connected to a server, then kibali group ni sila, and then it is also connected and goes down to the enterprise server and goes to the internet. While the cloud and mobile computing, you can use either your personal computer, even your laptops, or even your mobile phone, your smartphones, anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as you have the internet and the data, you can use you can have the access of the IT infrastructure services of this type of IT infrastructure lagi kada. So next is the technology drivers of infrastructure evolution. So Moore's law and microprocessing power. So computing power doubles every 18 months, while nanotechnology is a shrink size of transistors to size comparable to a size of a virus. So law of mass digital storage. So the amount of data being stored each year doubles. So next is the IT infrastructure. So as we can see here guys in this image, the Moore's law means decreasing cost. From 1965, it was between 10 to $1 per transistor price, while when it all comes down to the year 2014, ning kuan na laman ni sidya og 1 in a million na sidya sa tunga sa 1 in a million to 1 in a 10 million na kuan na lang cost or price sa US dollar niya. So drastically jud ang pag-ubos ni sa kuan Moore's law. So nanotubes are tiny tubes about 10,000 times thinner than a human hair. So they consist of rolled up sheets of carbon hexagons and have the potential uses as wires or in ultra small electronic devices, and are very powerful conductors of electrical current. So since the first so mo ni sida ang the cost of data storage. So since the first magnetic storage device was used in 1955, the cost of storing a kilobyte of data has fallen exponentially, doubling the amount of digital storage for each dollar expended every 15 months on average. So technology drivers of infrastructure evolution. So Metcalfe's law and networks economics. So value or power of a network grows exponentially as a function of the number of network members. So as network members increase, more people wants to use it, or demand for network access increase. So technology drivers of infrastructure and evolution. So declining communications costs and the internet is an estimated 2.3 billion people worldwide have internet access to date. So as communication costs falls toward a very small number of approach to zero, utilization of communication and computing facilities explodes. So mao ni siya ang cost per kilobyte sa kuan. So the one reason for the growth in the internet population is the rapid decline in the internet connections and overall communication costs. So the cost per kilobyte of internet access has fallen exponentially since 1995. So as we all know guys, di ba sa unang panahon, like let's just say from the early 2000s, ang ato pang wala pay globe diri sa una, so ang gigamit pa nato is kadto pang mga abot og nakasuway na mamuanay. Basta ang among gamit sa una sa ang family is the PLD teams ito, bayan tel nga kadtong murag DSL nga kato ganing mupalit kag card nga for murag 80 pesos ba to or 100 pesos nga for 8 hours na to nimo nga duration sa paggamit sa internet. So after atong 8 hours nga nagamit nimo sa kuan, babay na tong imong 100 pesos. So if you just calculate it guys, kung ang akong gastoon sa una for an internet just to kanang use the internet is 100 pesos per 8 hours ba to nga DSL na connection. So grabe kadto ang gikaubsan sa karong panahon na nga unlike sa karong panahon na nga sa karon nga ang Globe jud, like for example Globe PLDT, grabe na madagdaghan na ba og kanang plans nga gi-render sila nga services nga mga barato, di ba? And unsa pa ka og moabot atong katong dito nga company nga pastilan ang barato kadto da sulit pa gud ang imong mabayaran sa internet speed nga ilang gi-render nimo. So technology drivers of infrastructure and evolution. So standards and network effects. So technology standards. So specifications that establish the compatibility of products and the ability to communicate in a network. So unleash powerful economies of scale and results in price declines as manufacturers focus on the products built to a single standard. So IT infrastructure has 7 main components. These are the computer hardware platforms, operating system platforms. So let's just first explain the computer hardware platform. So kung kinsa man gani dire ang nagamit og personal computer or PC, tanawa ang sod sa inyong PC nga inyong makita mo na siya gitawag og computer hardware. Next is the operating system platforms. Ang sod sa computer, ang sod balian na nga kanang murag nagpadagan sa tanang program sa computer, murag akong pagsabot mo na jay operating system platform. Unsa we have the enterprise software applications. So mo ni sila ang mga kuan kanang bali kung sa kuan pa na kung sa input or output pa na ang kanang nakita nato dire nga mga gamit dire sa personal computer mo na sila ang hardware, while ang input bali ni is amo na ang software applications. So next is the data management and storage. So like for example kanang atong SDD or atong SDD, the networking or telecommunication platform, so internet or data, and then consulting system integrations and services. So mao ni siya ang kanang 7 key components. So there are 7 major components that must be coordinated to provide the firm with a coherent IT infrastructure. So for me, it is very important, or it's very important lagi nga we need to complete these 7 major components para we could kanang atong atong masulit ang ihatag nga i-render nga service sa IT infrastructure. Like for example, what is the use kung na kay computer pero wa pa kay operating system sa imong computer? Or what if tay na kay computer nya kompleto na imong computer hardware na kay operating system, so mo under na imong computer na tibutang nanay storage nanay kasudlan but wa kay internet, so how can you use it efficiently, di ba? So on and so forth gyapon sila. So mo that is the reason why nga kailangan kumpleto dun silang 7 major components para maka-provide ang firm with a coherent IT infrastructure. So next is the computer hardware platform. So sa akong gisulti ninyo ganiha, mo ni siya ang kanang hardware platforms. Client machines, mo ni siya desktop PCs, mobile devices, and laptops. So server, mo ni siyang blade servers, ultra thin computer stored in racks. Then mainframe, mo ning IBM mainframe equivalent to 1,000 of blade servers. Then top chip producers, AMD, Intel, IBM. So if kung ang cellphone, kung sa cellphone pa din mo ni siya ang gitawag nila og processor sa imong phone, mao ni nagpahatag og kanang nindot nga experience kung mogamit ka sa computers, even though you are using very kanang bugat kadto nga mga apps, or even though mga games, or unsa pa na dihang imong gipangkuan diha nga kuan nga bugat, it will still run smoothly if you have a better chip. So top firms morning IBM, HP, Dell, Sun Microsystems. Then operating system platforms. So operating systems server level 65% run by Unix or Linux and 35% run by Windows. While in the client level, so balik kung kita, 90% nag-run is Microsoft Windows. So mobile or multi-touch morning Android or iOS, and sa Microsoft Windows mo ni silang XP 2000, Windows 10, Windows 8, etc. etc. So enterprise software application. So enterprise application providers are the SAP and the Oracle. So data management storage morning database software IBM, Oracle, Microsoft. Then sa physical data storage mao ni siya ang Seagate, Maxtor, Western Digital. So mao ni siya ang mga brands or mga names sa mga kanang corporation nga nag-render sa ilang service when it comes to physical storage, kanang sa atong HDD or sa what we call the hard disk. Sa if you want to have a better experience or faster experience when using apps, even though you are using multiple apps in an instant, you need to have the Seagate SSD or the Western Digital SSD. So daghan silang so there are different types of storages and different types of gamit po nila. Then we have the storage area networks, which is the connect multiple storage devices on dedicated networks. So networking and telecommunication platforms. So telecommunication services, money telecommunications, cable, telephone, company charges for voice lines and internet access. So mo ni siya ang AT&T, Verizon, ug kadara. So example ani kung sa ato pa is katong sa kuan kanang Globe nga nagrender na tong telephone, nagrender og internet, ja atong kuan atong piliti kini nga atong sa pamailain kanang umaabot karon nga dito. And then when it comes to network hardware providers, man ni Cisco, Alcatel, Nortel, Juniper Networks, mo ni sila ang kung sa ato pa Globe, Smart, and Sun. So internet platforms, so hardware, software management services to support company websites, including web hosting services, intranets or extranets. So internet hardware server market, so morning IBM, Dell, and Sun or HP. So web development tool suites from Microsoft to Oracle, Sun, morning Java, Adobe or Real Networks. So kani silang web development tools mo ni silang most likely mo under ni siya sa mga web development nga kuan or web develop kanang kung ikaw tayo na kay kaila nga freelancer nga IT, so kung ganahan ka maghimog imong kaugalingong imong website, so mo ning kasagaran gamiton nga mga tools or mga softwares kaning Java, HTML. So consulting and system integration services, even large firms do not have resources for full range of support for new or complex infrastructure. Software integration, ensuring new infrastructure works with legacy systems. So legacy systems, older TPS created for mainframes that would be too costly to replace or redesign. So Accenture, IBM Global Services, EDS, and YPro. So, the mobile digital platform. So, mo ni silang cellphones, smartphones. So, I think I don't need to kanang dig deeper na about aning kuan kay as we all know, most of us kita tanan diri siguro or kita as in kita tanan diri siguro sa atong class, we have our smartphones and we know what are the use of a smartphone or even a cell phone. in terms of communication and services nga mga needs like data transmission, web surfing, or email. While netbooks, so sa kani gani diri nga kuan sa I think diri nga area dili pa ingon jud nga high tech pang smartphones kay sa karon gani ang smartphones you can use it for gaming, for even by kanang mag videos ka or something kuan grabe na kadto ka high tech ang mobile phones karong panahon na. Next is the netbooks. So small lightweight netbooks optimized for wireless communication and core tasks. So most likely these are used for kanang like for example kanang education purposes sa mga students. Easily to carry, and then you can store as many kanang mga informations as you like sa imong netbook. And also when it comes to kanang researching, gamit po ni sila sa mga companies and kanang mga employees, mga most likely mga office clerks or mga kanang nagtrabaho sa opisina gyud. The next is the tablets or iPad. Next is the network or e-readers. Grid computing. So connects geographically remote computers into a single network to combine processing power and create virtual supercomputers. So provider savings, speed, and agility. So next is the virtualization. Allow single physical resource to act as multiple resources. So example ane ay kanang run multiple instances of OS. So reduces hardware and power expenditures, facilitates hardware centralization. So cloud computing services obtained over network. So infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. So allows companies to minimize IT investments, drawbacks, concerns of security and reliability. So in cloud computing, hardware and software capabilities are a pool of virtual resources provided over a network. Often the internet, businesses and employees have access to applications and IT infrastructure anywhere at any time on any devices. So this is a gamit for personal needs but also for business types of needs ang kaning cloud computing, and it's very efficient and nakanindot ani you can use at any device at any time at anywhere, di ba? So that's the beauty of cloud computing. So green computing practices and technologies for manufacturing, using, disposing of computing and networking hardware. So example ani is to protect the environment and environmental responsibility. So high performance power saving processors is an integrated circuit to which two or more processor cores have been attached for enhanced performance, reduced power consumption, and more efficient simultaneous processing of multiple tasks. Nowadays, it is very when we talk about processors, it is very kuana kadto kanang high tech na. Dili ra ingon sa dire duha ka processor nga giuban, but as can you imagine 8 processors giuban na mga mo ng mga octa cores. So it's very high speed, very nindot ang imong experience when it comes to, so let's just say gaming na lang, kay one of the most heaviest apps when it comes to PCs or mobile phones, game man joy may pinakagrabe kabugat, may makadag lag. But when you have a good and kanang powerful processor, well, you can kuan na di nakaka kuan dili nakaka ka-compare kung bugat ba na or di na nga kuan, kay even though pinakabugat nga or pinakagrabe ang effects or something nga kanang bugat nga app, sisiw na naman na karon sa mga processor nato nga mga high ends. So autonomic computing and industry-wide effort to develop systems that can configure, heal themselves when broken, and protect themselves from outside intruders. So similar to self-updating antivirus software sa kung sa Apple or Microsoft naka kaning autonomic computing if nakabantay ta kadang from time to time sa atong mga laptops, computer or even sa atong phones magsigig nag-update. One of the most important updates ang nga naa na nga mga update is through kanang pag-level up sa ilang defense sa antivirus. So, open source software produced by community of programmers and free and modifiable by users. So, example na mo ning Apache web server, Mozilla Firefox browser, or OpenOffice. Well, Linux, open source OS used in mobile devices, local area networks, and web servers, high performance computing. So, software for the web, Java, object-oriented programming language. So, this is a type of a software, let's just say, kanina lamang duha, kaning Java and HTML and or HTML5, as what I've said earlier na nga, when you are a kanang need of kanang like website kani example how kani ha this is a website kini ta na nga to nakita dire kini mga suwat dire kini mga designs mga different font size different font styles. It's because of the kuan ani it's because of the Java or HTML or HTML5 because these are the things that this software rendering services for the people. So most likely wa tay website karon o wa ni sila because even these two alone you can make a decent website na or a simple website. So mo ni sa web page description language specifies how text graphics are placed on web page, di ba? So this is very important softwares when it comes to web na ganun websites. So next is the web services. So software components that exchange information using web standards and languages. So extensible markup language. So more powerful than and flexible than HTML. So sa karon daghanang ning emerge nga mga softwares nga mas gipalabuan ng HTML on like kanilang extensible markup languages or XML. So next is the SOA, Service-Oriented Architecture. Set of self-contained services that communicate with each other to create a working software application. Software developers reuse these services in other combinations to assemble other applications as needed. So, $rent a car. So, example example sa $rent a car when uses web services to link online booking systems with Southwest Airlines or websites. So mo ni siya ang kuan imong clear picture about a $rent a car nga type sa kuan. So the web services to provide a standard intermediate layer of software. So mo ni siya web services set Southwest Airline systems, then goes to the vice versa na sila from the tour operator systems, vice versa gihapon from travel, etc. And the web services goes to the server and the legacy reservation system. So software outsourcing and cloud services. So sources of software mo ni ang internal development and software outsourcing, while software outsourcing is a contracting outside firms to develop software. So, cloud-based software services. So, software as a service, SaaS, access with web browsers over internet, service level agreements or formal agreement with service providers. So, kaning balik ko sa software outsourcing. So, karong mga panahon na naigid nga style ang mga kanang mga firms ron nga or mga software companies nga magpahimo sila sa laing tao sa laing sa laing company, like for example murag ilang gi-broad ang ilang ning things sila outside sa ilang box ba, whereas magkuha na sila certain amount of kanang ITs or kana mga software developers, mas madyo pa siguro magkuha ta sa outside kay daghan ang mga kuan. So kung kinsay pinakanindot og gi gi percent nga software nga ilang gihimo, so mo to ilang paon, so mo nang mga nindot ang ato mga software karong panahon na og dali ra paspas kay daghan naman nagtrabaho, di naman ingon nga kanang nag-hire pa kag kuan sa duad pa nimo ginadlaw, whereas mag-outsourcing ra ka, magkuha ra kag mga kuan ra kag moari ra kag usa ka site nga kanang like for example Upwork, daghang mga software developers ganto. So imo ra na taga no mao na ganahang may tabo, then use your kanang imagination or something, imong talent sa imong pagka software developer, taga ikog dindot nga output, ang pinakanindot nga output nga ilang mahatag imong pilian. So paspas pa, efficient pa, mas nindot pa ang kuan kay ning take maka outside sa box, di naman sila wa naman sila ning take inside sa box. So next is dealing with platform and infrastructure change. So as firms shrink or grow, IT needs to be flexible and scalable. So scalability mo ning ability to expand to serve larger number of users. So for mobile computing and cloud computing, new policies and procedures for managing these new platforms. So contractual agreements with firms running clouds and distributing software required. So management and governance. Who controls IT infrastructure? How should IT department be organized? Centralized and decentralized. So centralized is an IT department makes decision, while decentralized is a business unit IT departments makes their own decision. So how are costs allocated between divisions or departments? So management issues. So making wise infrastructure investments. So amount to spend on IT is complex question. Whether if you rent or you buy morning cloud computing or outsourcing. Then next is the total cost of ownership. So analyzes a direct and indirect cost, hardware and software account for only about 20% of TCO. Then the other costs, installation, training, support, maintenance, infrastructure, and downtime, space, and energy. So TCO can be reduced, use of cloud services, greater centralization and standardization of hardware and software resources. So mo ni gikuan lagi nga when you invest, when it comes to making an infrastructure, you need to kanang imo di silang ikuan kanitanan para makakuha kag kanang or makakuha kag a great idea or a great kanang a better view of the picture kung sakto ba ni nga imong gi-investan sa imong infrastructure or asa ba ta makabarato or something nga na. So next is the management issues gihapon. How much we need to invest in IT? So we can use the competitive forces model for IT infrastructure investments to decide. So there are 6 of it. These are the market demand for firm services, firm's business strategy, firm's IT strategy, infrastructure and cost, information technology assessment, competitor firm services, competitor firm IT infrastructure investments. So mo ni sila. So these are the 6 factors that you can use to answer the question, how much should our firm spend on IT infrastructure? So this would end my report guys, and hopefully nga murag continue na ni sa next reporter sa chapter 6. So muna yung source na to, Management Information Systems, Managing the Digital Firm, 13th edition. So thank you guys and have a happy weekend.